Okay, thank you. Okay, maybe we stay wait for 1 minute for your friend to join in. I think you have class from 8 to 9. At the same time, let's check. We have complete question 1 in tutorial 4, is it? So we will continue with question number 2. Okay, let me know if I'm wrong. Okay, let's start. So let's continue on tutorial 4, question number 2. Um, Assume a home for a standalone PV solar system has a 3 kilowatt hour per day average DC requirement. So it means that one day you need 3 kilowatt hour. I don't know for what kind of purposes, but for to power a house, you need 3 kilowatt hour. What 6-volt battery AH rating is required, assuming that 8 battery in series will be used? So now you're going to calculate what is the size of the battery, what is the capacity of the battery you need, and autonomy is 3 days. Autonomy here refers to your battery should be able to supply the power for 3 days. Okay. Also assume that the allowable depth of discharge is 80%, and that the charge and discharge efficiency of the battery is 90%. So the allowable depth of discharge for the batteries mean that you always cannot fully discharge your battery to 100%. Okay, this to protect the battery. Okay, and then charge and discharge efficiency is in how much you lost when you charge the battery. Okay, let's start from the question here. So I think we're direct forward. You need 3 kilowatt per day, and autonomy is 3 days. So it means that your battery should able to supply the power for 3 days, energy for 3 days, which is 3 times 3 kilowatt hour. Okay, so the energy required should be 3 days times 3 kilowatt hour per day. So we have 9 kilowatt hour. This is the amount of uh, energy your battery should supply. Okay, next we talk about the battery. You can see that battery won't give you in terms of watt hour. We know that watt hour is a energy unit. Watt is a power, time with time in terms of hour, so become watt hour. If time with second, it will become the joule. Okay, so you have watt hour, but in the battery, normally you put it in this way. You can see that this is a 6 volt. Something like your power bank, it will tell you that this AH rating. Your power bank, let's say, is 20,000 milliampere hour. Okay, but it's not in the watt hour. So to convert from milliampere hour to watt hour, you have to multiply with the voltage output. So for this case, the battery have a voltage output of 6 V. For your power bank, I think should be 5 V 5 volt to charge your headphone. Okay, so based on this, maybe you can do it this way. The AH rating, 6 watt, and this total of 8 battery. So I can say that I have 8 battery with the AH rating of unknown and the voltage of 6 watt. Okay, and then the charge and discharge efficiency is 90%. So it means that when I charge into the battery, there's a 10% loss. Okay, and then there is a lower depth of discharge. You only can use 80% of the energy in the battery, so 0.8. Okay, and must be equal to 9 kilowatt hour. Okay, so from here, we should be able to know the AH rating for the individual battery, which we have the 8 battery in series. Okay, so from here, you can calculate what is the AH rating that you need for a single battery. Okay, 260. Okay, So your battery need to have 260 ampere hour of the rating. Okay. Okay, then the next question. What is the maximum number of series connected Crossbar KC200GT module that could be in the operating range of the SMA 2500U inverter? Assume that as a STD condition. Okay, so it means that the temperature is 25 degrees Celsius, the storage radius is 1000 watt per square meter. So we have to check the voltage for one solar module. Okay, so the voltage here we have the VMP and VOC. Okay, and then for this inverter, this specification for the inverter, so we have the maximum DC voltage is 600 watt. Okay, and then the PV voltage range is from 250 to 550. So what is maximum? The question asks for maximum. That doesn't mean that must be in the operating range. Okay, so operating range, maybe we can continue using this. We assume that the operating range from 250 to 550. Of course, 600 still safe to use, but this where we have a lower efficiency. Okay, so we can target on 250 to 550. So maximum voltage for this inverter is 550 watt. Okay, and how about this? In operating, then you have to refer to the VNPP as well, 26.3. So you take 550 divided by 26.3 watt. Then you will get the amount of panel you can connect in series, which is 20.9. Then we round out to 20. Okay, you always have to check both open circuit voltage and the maximum power voltage. Open circuit voltage, I say that is for safety purposes. It's not for the operating. Okay, and then same thing, this maximum DC voltage also for the safety, but normally we won't do it in that way because we will reduce the efficiency. You can see that we must, not say we must, we'll try our best to make the PV voltage range between this MPP range, maximum power point tracking range, so that your efficiency will be maximum. Okay, but slightly above 550 is still acceptable, which up to 600 watt. Okay. Can follow? If no issue, then we can move to the tutorial 5. Next week is I think public holiday. So we have a last tutorial class on week 14, which have a 2 hour of tutorial class. Okay. Okay, let's continue with this tutorial 5. Once the more attractive site is identified, what additional factors should a potential investor, so assume that you're an investor, take into account prior to deciding whether to fund the wind turbine? This is the extension question from the example we did in the lecture. So in the lecture, we calculate what? We calculate the wind distribution, wind speed distribution, and also the cost. Okay. Other than that, what else you need to consider before you invest in this wind turbine? Anyone? Maintenance and replacement. I think maintenance is included. If I'm mistaken, the question, there is a maintenance cost, which is 1 million per year. Sorry, 100,000 per year. Okay, and then the turbine cost is on how much? I can't remember. Maybe 2 million per year. Okay, so maintenance cost is already included. All type of costs already included. The wind speed distribution included. What else we need to consider? What is not included in the calculation? And then the one which you need to consider. Environmental impact, yes, definitely. Environmental impact can be not only noise, can be others, because you want to build a wind turbine in certain area. Okay, so definitely you will need to do some construction. It definitely bring effect to that location. Okay, so of course environmental impact like pollution, noise pollution, and what else you haven't considered. And how about the surrounding resident or maybe housing area surrounding? That one we never calculate. We just do the calculation in terms of cost. So whichever will cause a complaint, you must consider that. Okay, whenever they someone will complain you, then you may get fined or something else. Okay, even you don't care about environment, you also have to take care of the complaint, as this will affect your profit. Okay, if no one complain, normally the government will not really take action to you, or will not come up with any rules to limit you. That's why we try to minimize the complaint from the surrounding resident or any authority. So first, you need to check how far from the residential area. You need to check whether you have a demand or not. You need to check whether you can connect to the grid or not. Okay, if you cannot connect to the grid, you need to pay extra cost for transfer the energy from your wind turbine to the nearby substation. So if it's a substation nearby, then definitely it will be very good. Okay, and other than that, still a lot of things maybe in terms of the land. We consider the land price, but do you consider the type of land and it's suitable to build a tall building like a wind turbine? Okay, and you can see that wind turbine normally they have to is not actually make on the spot. I mean the turbine blade they were assembly on the spot only. So you need a very good transportation access, okay, including the road, or else definitely you are not able to send your blade until the location you need. You can use helicopter. It's too heavy for helicopter. Okay, you always have to find a way to deliver your parts to the site. This is also an issue. Okay, what else? You also have to take care of the expert you have in Malaysia. You need to include someone else from overseas where they are more experienced and it will cost you more. Okay, and then what else? And how about government policy, government incentives? This is what we never consider in the calculation. This definitely will affect your investment. Whether the government want to give you the extra funding or incentive, tax relief, something like this. This is what we need to consider. Okay, what else? Maybe you also have to consider. Okay, when we calculate the wind speed, okay, we use a historical wind speed distributor function. Always like this, because we will not never have the future data. We only have the past data. So in that case, how the future will correlate with the past data? Okay, will the wind speed change from this year to next year, or next year to another year? We don't know. So this is a part of the risk as well. Whether we have possibility to not get the profit as planned. Okay, so these all the things that you need to consider lah. When I think a lot lah, as an investor, you don't want to waste money, so you have to analyze all the risks. So the risk including the risk to the environment, the risk to your profit margin. Okay, so all you have to consider. Okay, should be no problem. Everything as long as you think that is needed, then you can discuss that. Okay, number two. An important hydroelectric plant has a head of 100 meter and water volumetric flow rate of 10,000 meter cube per second. What is the maximum power that can the plant? What is the maximum power that the plant can produce? Okay, I think this one okay lah. We just calculate the total power, total energy, total power lah, total power of this power plant. So from the potential energy, we have the mgh. Okay, and then m dot can be changed to the rho g qh. Rho g qh. Okay, rho density, q is a volumetric flow rate, g is a gravitational force, and h is the head. So we're direct forward 9.81 times 10,000. Sorry, it's rho is not 9.81. Rho is the density of water, 1,000 times 10,000. Flow rate times 9.81 times the head of 100. Then you will get the maximum possible power of the hydro power plant. Okay, sound easy. Actually, to develop a hydroelectric plant, what you need to calculate mainly is to develop the dam. But that is not part of our study because it will be very complicated and more on the civil engineering. Okay, 9.81 gigawatt. Okay, and then the next will be on in terms of the turbine design. What kind of turbine you want to use? But that again, everything depends on what's the flow rate and what is the head of the dam that you have. So again, without the realistic data, there's not much calculation we can do in the lecture. Okay, the only thing we can calculate the efficiency. So the concept in these courses is mainly want you to able to understand the concept behind. But in terms of the real-time calculation, we not really cover because that one you can expose it if you have the chances to work in this industry. Okay. So let's look on the number three. The reservoir behind the dam has a surface area of 10 km squared at a depth of 10 meter. If the water is in the thermodynamic equilibrium with its surrounding, thermodynamic equilibrium here refer to the temperature mainly. Temperature of water is the same as the temperature of the surrounding, which at the 28 degrees Celsius. What is the rate of evaporation loss from the reservoir? In answering this question, use the information for surrounding from Kuala Lumpur. So when you want to calculate the evaporation loss, you need to know the wind speed. You need to know the relative humidity ratio. Okay, and this you can get it from the information of Kuala Lumpur. You can just Google that. Okay, humidity at Kuala Lumpur or wind speed at Kuala Lumpur. Then you can get it. Okay, let's do it together. Okay, wait, I show you the lecture note. What I want to say just now. Okay, yeah. For this kind of power plant, hydropower plant, normally in Malaysia, you will not see any of the power plant doing the evaporation control. Okay, but it is actually needed for certain location, but not in Malaysia lah. Because Malaysia, we are very humid and we have a very high, we have a lot of rain. Okay, so in that case, we not really need to control the evaporation because once the water evaporate, it will eventually come back to the dam after it's rain. Okay, but for certain location where the rain amount is very less, then evaporation will be a very big issue. Okay, but of course, control is another big issue. So you can see that we can use this equation. Okay, so GH is the amount of evaporated water per hour. And then theta is 25 plus 90. V and V is refer to the wind speed lah. And then XS is the saturation humidity ratio, and RH is the relative humidity of air. So maybe you can write down the equation. GH. So now we need to find the velocity. Let's Google a bit. Wind speed and KL. So now the wind speed is 2 kilometers per hour, and then the humidity is 87%. 2 kilometers per hour, and then relative humidity is 87%. You can just Google, and then the first result will be this temperature and the weather of Kuala Lumpur. Okay, so you can see that there's a humidity of 87%. Malaysia always have very high humidity. They will tell you that humidity supposedly is how many amount of water in the air, but it's very difficult to measure in terms of exact value. That's why it always give you in the relative value, refer to the maximum value we can hold. Okay. Okay, so from here you can get the velocity in the meter per second, 2000 divide 3600 in meter per second. Okay, and then area, we have it already. Area is 10 square km, and XS is the saturation humidity ratio, refer to the maximum amount of water can hold by the dry air. Okay, at a given temperature and pressure. So now the temperature is 28 degrees Celsius, and then the pressure is atmospheric pressure of 1 atm. So we can refer to this graph to find the saturation humidity ratio. So 28 degrees Celsius, maybe around here. Okay. Maybe 0.024. Okay, so XS is 0.024. So from here, we can get the GH. Theta is 25 plus 19V. V is velocity 2000 divide 0.56. Then A is 100 times 10 power of 6. XS is 0.024. And 1 minus RH, relative humidity, is 87%. So total amount of water evaporate per hour will be this amount. Okay, so for this big dam. Okay. Any question? If no question, then we can move to the next one. Tutorial 6. We have total of, I think, 6 tutorial. Okay. Yeah, Ji, yeah.
So the tutorial questions that I have from the Google Classroom, I think is a bit different with Sir one because we have the tutorial 5. The question tree is different, like what Sir discussed just now, and also the tutorial 5 we have until question 6.
Okay, maybe let me check. Give me some time. Tutorial 5. Oh, tutorial 5 because a few questions are already taken as an example in the lecture. That's why it's no longer appear in the my tutorial 5. And then the question 3 in the tutorial 5 is newly added. Maybe I update it in the Google Classroom again for the tutorial that I have here. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's different. Then tutorial 6. Yeah, tutorial 6, I think it's the same. Only tutorial 5 because I take a few questions put into the lecture. Tutorial 4 also the same. Okay, only tutorial 5. I'll update it after the class. Okay, thank you, Chia, for pointing out. I also don't know I uploaded the wrong one. Okay, so let's continue on tutorial 6. Discuss the pros and cons of these energy sources for producing electricity, and pros should be as specific as possible to that energy sources. But for example, what's the difference? What's the difference from others? Be sure to include at least 2 pros and 2 cons for each. Okay, so here we have 7 types of renewable energy, and you need to give the advantage and disadvantage of each of them. But remember, the advantage you have must be unique, which do not have it in other type of renewable energy. For example, you are not able to use, yes, solar energy is renewable. This is the advantage of solar energy. Yes, it's always true, but all type of the resources here are renewable. So don't use renewable as the title or as a answer, okay, for this case. Of course, if the question just asks, what's the advantage of using solar energy? You always can say renewable. But when the question asks to compare solar with wind, compare solar with hydro, then you cannot use this renewable anymore. Okay, so let's talk about the solar. What is the advantage that you know about solar? Give me 2 advantage. Anyone think about it? Try to answer. Yeah, try to think. Because this is not very general. Not really need to do a lot of revision. You can think of at your own. What is the advantage of solar energy? As far as you know, we already covered this for entire semester. Anyone? Just try. Don't worry. Just try. If you don't try, I do not really know how you think, and maybe your answer is not correct. Then I also cannot correct you. Okay, so try to give your answer, and then we can discuss whether your answer is valid or not valid. When you think that my explanation not enough, then you can defend your answer. Yeah. Think about it. What's the advantage of solar? Okay, maybe you can think in this way. Why the entire Malaysia developed the solar more than other type of renewable energy? So you give me 2 answers. Safety compared to all alternate renewable energy. Yes, definitely. Because of the mechanism is very simple. No combustion refer to no explosion. No high pressure, no explosion. And then no moving part also have less failure or less accident. So definitely solar energy is the safest. Yes. Secondly, accessible at most of the place, widely available. You can get it always everywhere on the Earth's surface because everywhere on the Earth's surface actually exposed to the sunlight. Okay, just matter of how much you can get. But even in the location which have very low irradiance, the solar irradiance that you get also won't be too low. Maybe also have 70% of Malaysia. Okay, so definitely it's very good. These 2 points is definitely you cannot compare to others. Widely available and very safe to use. Less pollution, yes, true. You can say that it's less impact to the surrounding, less impact to the environment. No emission, no emission at all, because you can see that hydro, geothermal, biomass, we can consider there is a impact. Okay, we have entire impact to the ecosystem, but solar is a less impact to the environment, zero emission. Consistent resources, I don't think so, Kashing, because solar is quite not reliable, I would say that, because later cloudy day, later raining day, so it's quite unpredictable and not reliable. Okay, so if you want to talk about consistency, most of the renewable energy is better than solar in terms of consistency. Okay, so if you want to put consistency, then it should be the disadvantage of solar energy. Okay, so solar still have a lot of advantages. For example, no moving part, so you have the less maintenance. Okay, so other than safety, you also can say that it's a simplest, the most simplest power plant that you have in the world. That's why you can check how many companies working on solar system. There's a lot. But you check on other type of renewable energy. How many company is working on that? It's just one or two. Because the system is difficult to build. Okay. But solar, I have a few experience in electrical engineering. I can be the expert in solar energy. I just use the solar panel. I just need the inverter and just follow a few standard and rules. Then I can open the start up a company and sell the solar panel, sell the solar system. Okay, the concept is very simple. What else about solar energy? It can virtually occupy no space. You put it on the rooftop. This is the only renewable energy that you can build on the rooftop. Okay, and what else? I think something like this lah. You can think a lot lah. But this is what I have in my mind now. Okay, how about disadvantage? Other than reliable, what are the disadvantage of solar energy? Other than reliable, reliable is come from the consistency lah. So because of cloudy day, sunny, raining day, we always do not have a consistent output. What other disadvantage that we have? Low efficiency, occupy more space. Yes, definitely correct. Solar panel have much lower efficiency than other type of renewable energy, and then also occupy more space with the same power output. Okay, if you refer to what we covered in the geothermal last few slide of the geothermal, how much area you need to occupy to generate 1 megawatt of power. Solar is one of the most, okay, where you need to cover most area. Okay, I think three main disadvantage of solar is not reliable, occupy more space, and less efficiency. Many resources required in production of solar panel. I don't think it's a problem. Okay, yeah, you need to use cadmium and some kind of heavy metal, but this is widely available, not an issue. Maybe you can say that production may be toxic if this cadmium and sealant gas that used to clear the furnace is released to the environment. Okay, you can talk about the manufacturing of the solar panel is toxic. Okay, fine. But you talk about the resources is not, we have lack of resources, not very help. This all heavy metals still widely available. That's why to make the solar panel so cheap. Actually, the concept of solar panel also not difficult. The resources is just silicon. Mainly, it's just silicon. Silicon is not considered as many resources lah. I would say that. Okay, so main three disadvantage is occupied space, low efficiency, and not reliable. Okay, how about wind? You're getting more difficult because we have less exposure to different the other type of renewable energy. Solar, we should know the most. How about wind? What's the advantage of wind compared to other type of renewable energy? Wind, what's advantage? Or maybe you can talk about disadvantage as well together. Advantage and disadvantage. If you have any idea, you can just talk about it. Wind. Why China, US, they use so many wind? They use so many wind power plant. Can I say that wind is widely available? Yes, I think it compared to except solar is the best lah, most widely available. Then the second one will be the wind. So if you compare to the other five type of renewable energy, so wind is still very widely available. Okay, and then good thing about wind is land below still can be used. It occupy very less land, so the land below still can be used for plantation. So actually the effective land usage is very small. Okay, what else about wind? Advantage, zero emission. I think yes. There's no air pollution at all because there's no combustion, no emission. And then what else? Wind energy. Anyone? None of you give any answer for wind. Let's think about it. What's a good thing about wind or bad thing about wind? Low operating cost. Low operating cost. I think all type of renewable energy other than biomass have low operating cost. Solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, all of them have low operating cost. So I don't think it's an issue lah. I think this is what I have. Okay, then we talk about disadvantage. We have a lot lah. Yeah, in jump. Yes, correct. Noisy. So you have the noise pollution and high maintenance cost. Maintenance cost is actually half lah. It's lesser than solar. It's more than solar, but I think lesser than biomass and hydro. Okay. Descent generation to cost ratio in wind resources region and one difficult to implement. Okay, difficult to implement is something that very subjective. What do you mean by difficult to implement? Due to what? So if you give this kind of answer, you need to have a better explanation. Difficult to handle because of the lack of resources or because of the difficulty in technology. Okay, so you have to properly state. Okay, so I think the disadvantage of wind turbine first definitely is not reliable. Okay, transportation. Okay, I think okay you talk about transportation of wind turbine is difficult because normally it's in the big pieces. You are not able to cut the blade into a small size. Definitely cannot. You will lose balance and the what center of gravity of the blade. It might be designed in one piece and built in one piece. And the rest, I think you don't need a big pieces of part or other type of renewable energy, only wind. Okay. And then can I say that wind is far from the user? Normally we will stay where how would I say? Normally where you have a strong wind on the mountain, on the hill, where less people will stay in that. So supply and demand is not a real match for wind. Okay, and of course you will kill the bird, you will have a noise pollution, and you have difficult transport. Yes, correct. GA, correct. Yeah, good land-based wind sites are often located in a remote location, far from the city, where the electricity is needed. Yeah, this is true. And solar different. Solar is normally very quite close to the not say close, but it has everywhere. So I don't say close or far. You have it everywhere. But this wind definitely correct. It's far from the user. Okay. How about hydro? Advantage of hydro. Wind, I think enough lah. We have more than three already for pro and con. Hydropower. Hydropower is the main renewable energy used to produce electricity. Until today, it's still the main. It still occupy the most share. Why is used? Hydropower. Reliable, yes, reliable and high efficiency. This is the two. Yes, correct. What else? Power output can be adjusted accordingly to the demand. Energy can be stored. Okay, there's a lot. And high capacity. Other than high efficiency, hydroelectric also have high capacity. Okay, so easily we can get five advantage of hydropower compared to the rest. Reliable, high efficiency, high capacity. What else just now I said? The water can be stored, can be adjusted according to the demand. Okay, so these are the advantage of hydropower. As I said previously, hydropower has very strong advantage and also have very bad disadvantage. You can see that the advantage is much better than the rest of the energy. Okay, but the disadvantage also the same thing. It's very both. So we talk about the disadvantage hydroelectric. What is it? High initial cost. Okay, yes, hydropower always has high initial cost, mainly to build the dam, extensive floating area at the upstream, and restriction of the water level at the downstream. So you affect the farmer, you affect the fish or ecosystem, the river ecosystem. Okay, and danger of dams collapse. Uh, and what else? And reduce oxygen generation because the most of the jungle, for example, the Bakun Dam, they put the entire land as the size of Singapore underwater, 700 km square of area under water. So this means that you lost 700 square km of the jungle, which able to generate oxygen. Okay, and then you also release the methane gas, you release the carbon dioxide and nitrogen loading at the very beginning of the operation. Just a few years operation, you have a very heavy carbon dioxide release to the environment and methane gas. And the greenhouse gas release from hydroelectric is even higher than coal power plant at the beginning, first few years of the operation. Okay, so you can see that there's strong disadvantage and very strong advantage. So how to choose whether you want to use hydroelectric power or not? There's always an issue. Okay. Okay, then we talk about the next one, geothermal. Getting lesser information we have. Geothermal. Geothermal is the energy from the ground. What's the advantage? We just covered it on Monday, on Wednesday. What is the advantage of geothermal compared to the rest? Uh, Stable, yes, you have a very reliable and stable output because the steam from the ground you can control properly and able to have a very high capacity factor. Okay, that's stable and high capacity factor is similar. Highly affordable in terms of cost. In terms of cost, yes and no. Initial cost is very high, but operating cost very low. Okay, so because initial cost, what you need to do is exploration and digging during process to make the hole. Okay, so normally it's very expensive, but when during the operation, it's very simple and very low maintenance cost and operating cost. Doesn't require large space. This is one of that. It means that the space required for geothermal is the lowest among other type of renewable energy. Okay, so we have 3 or 4 already. Okay, I think good enough. How about the disadvantage? Location restricted, yes, all right. Because not everywhere you have the geothermal power plant. Only at a certain location you will have the geothermal energy. And the exploration is difficult. Okay. And what else? High capital cost. Just now we talked about it, high capital cost. And it also will somehow have the risk to trigger the earthquake. Yes, this is one of the issue because when you do the digging, you alter the earth surface. So this may trigger the earthquake, but of course at a very low percentage, not so easy to trigger. And then most of the geothermal plants were far away from population center. So again, it's far from the user. This is one of the issue. I think okay lah, we are free. And in terms of environmental impact, I think much lesser than hydroelectric and biomass. We still consider as quite good and quite green. Okay. But of course, if you stand alone, just want to discuss the disadvantage of geothermal. You can talk about the environmental impact as well. They release the carbon dioxide they release the radon gas You can talk about that if not compared with others. Okay. Let's look on the biomass. What's the problem and advantage of biomass? I think if you compare with other type of renewable energy, the advantage of biomass is reduce the waste. This is not this is the only renewable energy can reduce the waste. Yes, correct. Reduce garbage in landfill, reduce the waste. All only can be done in biomass. Okay. And other thing, what other thing they can talk about it? Normally, when we talk about biomass, there's a two main point: reduce the waste and carbon neutral. Okay, but for this case, if I want to use a point carbon neutral, how I want to make it different from others? Okay, carbon neutral is referred to biomass will not generate extra carbon dioxide. So at the same time, uh, it means that you burn the biomass, you release the carbon dioxide. You don't burn the biomass, the microorganism will decompose the biomass and release the carbon dioxide. So we can explain this way. Yes, biomass is carbon neutral. So even I don't use that, it will generate the carbon dioxide. Okay, so if I use other type of renewable energy, I'm wasted of the biomass resources. So I can use biomass because of it is a carbon neutral, which do not have it for others. Okay, the advantage if I use the biomass, then the carbon dioxide generated and at the same time I get the energy. You can see that carbon dioxide definitely will be generated because you use it, you get energy. You don't use it, you will decompose by bacteria. So better we use it. So you also can talk about the carbon neutral, but explanation should be slightly different from what we expect in compared to fossil fuel. Okay, so two main advantage of biomass: reduce the waste, and yes, I think yes. Sorry, just now I talked about the carbon neutral and reduce the waste, and Joey talk about low technology required. Yes, definitely. Even our we can use this. How I say, my neighbor doing renovation. Sorry about it. This low technology required. Yes, we can use it for power generation for more than 200 years ago. Okay, and widely accessible, yes. And then other than widely accessible, it also mesh supply and demand very much. Where you have the biomass, you have the population need the energy. Okay, so now we have 4 points already. Okay, carbon neutral, reduce waste, low technology required, and widely available. Okay, then about disadvantage of biomass. Wow, so many. Okay, disadvantage we have low energy density, correct? Solid difficult to handle. Yes, compared to the rest, we need to make the feeding from time to time. It's very difficult. And then high water content. Okay, competing use as a high value foodstuff. Yes, this is correct. But you look on the low energy density, sorry, high water content and low energy density, it should be somehow have the link together. Okay, but all acceptable in that case. The unique disadvantage of biomass energy. Okay, and let's talk about the wave and tidal. What's the advantage of wave? Supply and demand mesh. Okay, and what else? Because normally the population is near the coastline, and this wave and tidal also at the coastline. And then for the tidal, it is predictable. So it's one of the advantage. Tidal is predictable. Okay. Maybe at the same time we will talk about the disadvantage. So disadvantage of wave is unpredictable. Tidal is predictable, but wave is unpredictable. And then both of them will have very big impact to the marine ecosystem. Okay, and may not be visible from the sea surface. So the ship may hit on it or something else. So you block the path for the ship to move as well. So this is a disadvantage of wave and tidal. And low power output and very, very high cost. And you also can say that the technology is not major. We do not have a very major technology to harvest energy from the wave and tidal. And especially wave, wherever you have strong wave, you also have a strong wind. So it will be better if you use the wind rather than the wave. Okay. So I would say that wave is normally out. And in terms of tide, you can see that we use the potential energy from a tide. So again, we use the head, and the head you have in the tide is very, very low. So that in the nature form, the tide have very low amount of energy. Okay. Okay. I think we stop here today lah. So the rest will continue on week 14. Just a few. Just continue. Just complete it next week. Okay. Any question before dismiss? Sorry, I'm rushing to another meeting at 10 a.m. Any question? No question, huh? Okay, thank you, Jie. So far, so good. Okay, thank you for your time and see you on Big 14. Bye bye.